Ready graphics? Ready theme? Cue graphics.
Good evening. For your information tonight.
Hi, I'm Jesse Mullins,
And I'm Lauren Milberger,
and this is FYI.
the Murphy Brown Podcast.
Let's talk about the amazing shoulder pads of everyone in that office.
I have actually fondled an Emmy before.
The 90s are back in many ways.
I have no respect for anyone but myself, and that's really shaky. And for your information tonight,
We'll be speaking about Season 1, Episode 1, Respect.
Respect won the Emmy for Best Writing
The only first draft to win.
because of the writer's strike.
Heyo.
And for any people who don't know what that means, when there's a writer's strike, you can't write because you're on strike.
Yep.
So Diane English, who wrote this episode, and it was originally titled Don't Ask, eventually became Respect when they added the Aretha Franklin song at the beginning, because
Yeah,
there
they
was a
did.
theme song originally that was written, could not change one word. Just sort of amazing,
Yeah.
because it's a great script.
It's wonderful, honestly. So it was written by Diane English. It was directed by Barnett Kellman. And it aired November 14th of 1988. So let's start working our way through this episode. We start with a cold open. It's a montage of Murphy's magazine covers. And I went through and looked at this. We have Us Weekly. We have Time. We have Life, Newsweek, the Star Examiner, where they say she has Bigfoot's baby. We have Esquire asking who is man enough for Murphy Brown. And People magazine.
Isn't it funny, looking at this episode with the Us Weekly, I just have these memories of like, remember when Us Weekly was like not a tabloid?
No, it was like legit.
People don't believe me.
No, because it hasn't been that for ages.
Ages.
But it was, I mean, that's why they show it in this open. I mean, granted, also, as we will talk about, Murphy was also a bit of tabloid fodder, but there's a reason that was one of the covers. So, we cut to Murphy's colleagues on the news magazine Her Show, FYI. You may have heard of it.
Maybe.
We have her best friend, Frank Fontana, and senior anchor Jim Dial, and they're discussing her with her temporary replacement, former Miss America, Corky Sherwood. And that is delightful. I love the fact that the only person wearing a bright color in the entire set is Corky.
Oh, because it fits her character.
She's wearing a bright teal.
What I love about this opening scene is it's an example of why it won the Emmy. I mean, and it's a great pilot. Like, you need to have... The hardest thing, I think, in a pilot is having exposition without it sounding like, we are now giving exposition.
Oh, it's brilliantly crafted because it's exactly what you do at a water cooler.
Yeah.
I was just chatting. They know she's
Oh,
coming
she's
back.
coming back. They're reading an article on her. They're taking bets, which then will become sort of a thematic thing throughout the episode.
So many bets this episode.
So many bets, but what reminded me is that in the first couple of seasons, I forget how far it goes, Corky only has a checkbook.
Yes. It's so specific.
It's
and
so great.
it says something really specific about during that time period. But who has a checkbook? Whereas now that would be a completely different implication of somebody writing out checks, but Corky.
It's so specific, like, to character, and I think that's also what's important too. Is that this is only, I was going to say a 30-minute show, but without commercials, it's probably more like 25.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nowadays sitcoms are even shorter, so you have a small amount of time to be able to introduce the characters and let us know who they are. And that particular line is just like, oh, that's who Corky is.
Oh, you immediately know. She's wearing bright teal. I mean, let's talk about the amazing shoulder pads of everyone in that office.
It's a lot of shoulder pads.
So many. I love it. As somebody
Yeah.
with sloping shoulders, I love that.
Whereas I am a petite person and do not enjoy the shoulder pads.
I want that shape badly, and I'm excited it's back with a vengeance. So
It's not good.
shh, don't worry about it. Corky has a bright suit. She has a pink mug with her name on it. We know everything about her. We are listening to Jim make a bet with Frank and the entire office, actually, that Murphy's month at the Betty Ford Clinic for cigarettes and alcohol will leave her an unchanged pain in the butt. And with that, you know what types of friends they are. You know the playful quality of their banter. You know everything you probably need to know about Murphy walking into this.
Yeah.
And you also get a little time capsule of the Betty Ford Clinic. And you find out, and they're correcting the article about her, saying that she stood up Warren Beatty and not the other way around.
Which is a big deal. Like, for some people who may not remember, before Warren Beatty was a family man.
Yes.
a lot of people who are older are laughing right now.
Yeah.
But some people may not realize this, but Warren Beatty was known for being a bit of a playboy.
Little bit. He was the playboy. So we were just reading a really interesting quote from him talking about the fact that it's physically impossible for him to have. However, there's an ongoing rumor that Warren Beatty bedded 13,000 women. And which, I mean, granted, he was with a lot of notable women.
Yeah, he was known for usually dating his co-stars.
Yes, which, now everyone's used to. But at the time, I mean, this was still the time of the concept of a decent nuclear family. It was a big deal that he did this. And so the idea that Murphy turned him down, that she stood him up.
That's a sense of her character.
Yes. She makes her own choices. This is one of the points where one of my favorite jokes of the episode happens.
Oh, what is it, Jesse?
When Corky, who is just pretty and yapping away to herself, and nobody's listening to Corky, which, oh, poor Corky, just talking to herself, everyone else is ignoring her, and she's talking about Miss America because she keeps bringing up.
You should mention that she was a Miss America by default.
Yes.
Which is hysterical.
And because she's talking about the other girl, and she has this great line, which is, when she said she loved animals, no one took her seriously. I love that Sweet Corky gets the bestiality joke in the first couple minutes.
But what's great is that, like, I feel like in someone else's hands, that joke would not be as funny because, like, Faith Ford, like, goes up at the end.
Oh, it's perfect.
And she's just like, no one took her seriously. And, like, that's not really a line reading, but, like, I just sort of love that. It's the way that she says it, that she punches the end of the joke where you're like, oh, God.
Oh, I could talk for hours. Faith Ford's choices with Corky, you can't help but love her.
And the big smile on her
But
face
she's
about everything. It's just
speaking her truth, man. So then Murphy gets off the elevator. She has arrived. Everyone is tense. But Murphy is polite and upbeat. And she's walking through. She's, by the way, also wearing blue, but a royal blue. As our
I just
queen.
thought of something. Contrast maybe there?
Maybe something we're going to see
lighter
again
blue?
later down the road.
Oh, spoiler.
And then she goes into her office. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, I guess she actually has made the change. And they're all confused.
Paying each other back.
And then we hear the beautiful dulcet tones of Murphy screaming.
One of my favorite sounds.
It's so wonderful.
Who touched Miami? I should say that farther back. Who touched Miami? I love Frank. I love the fact that he's like, yeah, she's back. Oh, I
yeah.
lost. I have to give people my money now.
Yep,
it's
he
such
tried.
a great human reaction. He's like, I love my friend, but my money.
He tried to believe in her.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned this before to you, Jesse, but she accuses Frank of fondling the Emmy, and I have actually fondled an Emmy before. Mm-hmm. It was lovely.
Well, I mean, it looks so shadeful.
We shared a moment.
Sure.
I mean, it's Emmys have been my dream. I once made an Emmy in the sand at the beach as a child. I think no one is surprised if they listened to our first episode. So I went to the Actor Studio Drama School, and we got to go to the edit session for, maybe I shouldn't say where I did this, for Inside the Actor Studio, and there was an Emmy, and I had to touch it. I don't usually
If
do
it's
that.
there.
Yeah, and I was afraid if I picked it up, that would be a problem. So I thought, well, I want to experience it. So like a blind person, since I knew I couldn't pick it up, or I was afraid to pick it up and get in trouble, I just put my hand sort of all around it as if I couldn't see it and I wanted to.
You're just a blind woman reaching for an Emmy.
Yeah, and I realized, oh, I have just fondled an Emmy.
It's beautiful. Well, and this is such a great moment because Frank sexualizes the Emmy, a female form, and Murphy's response, and what I love about the show is her response is to quote to him saying, "Thank you for sending the Chippendales calendar. Mr. March got me through August." The response to the sexualizing of a female statue is to then sexualize a Chippendale.
Well, what I also love is that shows so much about their relationship.
Yeah.
You know, it's so rare to see a male-female friendship.
A truly
And-
platonic one.
Yeah, and I love that. And so it just shows the fact that they're so comfortable in their relationship that there's not this sort of like, oh, well, I don't feel comfortable sending her naked men. No, she's my bud.
She's gonna need it.
Yeah. And
It's
I
very
just-
supportive. It's sex positive, and I love it.
It is. And so I love that.
At this point, while she's talking to Frank, she confesses that she is sober. However, the clinic will never rid her of her addiction to number 2 soft pencils.
Which I love.
Fun fact, I don't know who took art class growing up, art courses, but a number 2 soft pencil is a very specific type of graphite.
Which I did not know.
I'm a nerd. So if you're looking at your traditional pencils, they run from an H scale to a B scale. And H, you can just assume stands for hard. B is your softer lead. Normally, a number 2 pencil is kind of in the middle of the spectrum. But the fact that she specifically says a number 2 soft pencil, I mean, she likes a pencil with a little chew in it. Imagine the harder the lead, the lighter the line. So the softer you get, the darker. So more of a charcoal type thing. So she has a very specific flavor and palette for her pencils.
Interesting.
And I appreciate that about her.
Never say you never learned anything on the Murphy Brown podcast.
Heyo, full of trivia. So, as she's settling back into her new world, she meets her new boss, executive producer, Miles Silverberg.
Miles.
Oh, Miles.
Miles.
He's not what she was expecting.
No.
Let's put it that way. She's a little hung up on his age and his credentials, if they're actually credible.
And we'll learn later on that Arvin, who he replaced, was older than Murphy, more of a father figure type character. So this is a bit jarring.
I mean, basically what they're setting up is Murphy comes back from a month at the Betty Ford Clinic, which for those of you who might not be aware, the Betty Ford Clinic is a pretty famous rehab center. It housed people like Jerry Lee Lewis, Anna Nicole Smith, Lindsay Lohan, Ozzy Osbourne, Elizabeth Taylor, Steven Tyler, Johnny Cash, etc., etc., etc. Still, a notable reference to this day. But she left for a month. That was all. She's come back, and now she was replaced by a Miss America pageant contestant, default winner, that is kind of the opposite of everything she believes she has worked to become. And her new boss is, to her, a fetus. And she talks about, she has that great line about, do you even know who the Shirelles are?
The Ronettes, the Delphonics.
Because, as we will talk about, Motown's very important to Murphy. But he's a babyface.
Yeah.
So, she goes into her office and she, while meeting him, is trying to rid herself of her habits.
Oh, I love this. It's such a great detail.
She's just pulling full cigarette cartons out. Not individual cigarette boxes,
Cartons.
but the cartons of cigarettes that she has taped everywhere.
My grandmother had cartons.
Oh yeah, I remember going to college and the people I knew who smoked in North Dakota just bought by the carton, and it freaks me out. It's so many. Don't smoke, kids. Save your lungs. But
Yeah, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
My grandfather was on oxygen, so
Oof.
that's why I cannot stand cigarettes for many reasons. But continue.
So she's ridding her office of this, and as she's talking to him, and you just see that what I love about what Candice Bergen is becoming this character throughout this episode. We said earlier, you can even hear Murphy down the line in her voice already in this pilot episode.
Yeah.
But I see it physically manifesting in her as she's ripping these boxes out, because as she's doing this, he's telling her that Corky's here to stay. Not even the
What's also interesting about this scene is that you see a lot the way that Candice Bergen walks, and the director Barnett Kellman said that he feels that Candice Bergen walks like Groucho.
Oh gosh,
You see it now,
that
right?
is so specific, and it's so true.
But particularly for some reason, like going back and watching, I was like, I see it in this scene. I totally see it.
It's right there. It's what I love is it's this perfect dichotomy of this very classically feminine beauty in this very typically masculine gestural language. It's brilliant. She's what is Murphy.
Well, one of the sort of buzz lines, I wanted to say buzzwords, but I feel like it's buzz line, as in like buzzword and tagline, is Diane would say, well, she's Mike Wallace in a dress.
Yes.
And that definitely reminded me of what you just said.
Yes. And as we're, again, in a great form of exposition, we're learning a little bit more about Corky.
I realize that's another one of my favorite lines. Not my absolute favorite line, and it's the way also the delivery is Corky Sherwood comes out and organizes a closet.
Like, that's Corky's talent. She organized a closet.
It's just so precious.
And it's precious. It's also setting you up to make assumptions about this character, which is something that will be delved into later. But it's setting up Corky as this foil to Murphy, as now Murphy has to go up against the exact stereotype that she has been working against for so long, and what that's going to mean, because now she can't run away from it. And this is something I've said to you upon rewatching this series with this in mind. My original opinions of Corky have changed.
Oh, they have totally changed for me too.
And I'm so fascinated watching this unfold, even in these preliminary moments of what we're supposed to think and what is actually being explored with this character, and especially with the way that Faith Ford plays it.
Yeah, I feel like, and I always loved Corky. It's not that I didn't like Corky, but I definitely was sort of Murphy's point of view when she first meets her. And now, in Murphy's place, oddly enough, having gone through Corky's journey myself, I see her so differently.
I do.
She's
and I'm
really trying. It's not her fault.
So Miles has informed Murphy that Corky is joining FYI permanently. This infuriates her more. And Corky, at the worst time possible, enters to introduce herself. And she's trying to show off her abilities to Murphy by asking Miles how to pronounce Shiite.
Which is another of my favorite jokes, although not my absolute favorite joke. What's interesting is that I think it's on the commentary on the DVD, I'm not sure, but Candice Bergen said that was such a great joke because Shiite was not really known as much then as it was known now. I know it took me a while to get that joke.
That may have been where I learned the term.
Maybe.
As a kid. I feel like that's probably the first place it would have been present in front of me.
I mean, we're coming up to my favorite joke. Should I just mention it?
Go for it.
Okay. So another description so Corky, does as you mentioned, introduce herself and how much she admires Murphy, and then she leaves. And Miles thinks this is so great. And he's just like, yeah, look, and she thinks Camus is a soap. Which is what many writers would call a 10%er. Only 10% people would get that joke.
Oh, yeah, but it's worth it for those of us who do.
But here's the story about me getting that joke and it becoming my favorite joke. So I did not see the pilot till probably I was about like 15 or 16 at the Paley Center, because I came into it in the second season. And I didn't get the joke at the time. And then I remember being in English class in high school and them passing out the new book we're going to read, which was The Stranger.
Oh my god!
By Camus, and I start laughing because all of a sudden I got the joke because I used a soap. Oh god, what's the name of it? Caress, I think, or something.
Oh, yeah, they have body wash and stuff now.
Yeah, so I was like, I get that it's like a joke, maybe on like it's a joke on Caress, but something else. So like I got that it was sort of referencing something, and it probably isn't. It's just Camus. But I just started laughing in English class because I got it.
The great thing about the structure is, especially in this time period of sitcoms, is when something's supposed to be a joke.
That's true.
So you knew it was supposed to be a joke, you just weren't exactly sure about the reference.
And I just love how smart it is and how specific it is. And on another note, I love the fact that it took me so long to get it, to like actually be like taught like, oh.
That shows that Murphy is with you at a cellular level.
We all have, I think we've established that.
Oh yeah. Well, and to Candice Bergen's credit, her delivery, if you were in that 90% who didn't get it, you still knew you knew what kind of put down it was.
Yeah. No, it was really good.
So we leave the office. I'm sorry, we're still in the office. But the only thing good that happens to Murphy in this moment is she finds out that Miles got her an interview with Bobby Powell.
And she needs to buy tampons. Interesting fact about that I found out. Diane English and, I hope I say her name right, Corby Siamis, who was a writer on the show. And I always wasn't sure if I was saying her name correctly, so I'm sorry if I have. Love tampon jokes apparently, and Candice Bergen hates tampon jokes. Do you like tampon jokes?
I mean, I don't think of them as a particular category of jokes that I am pro or against. I think it's the context that matters.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't know why.
Or the co-text that matters.
Yeah, but
come on, that was good.
That was
come
on.
Good.
I'm sorry, that was really good. But what I wanted to say was, it took me a second to get that. Is that what I love about having that joke in the pilot is that one of my sort of issues is later on in the seasons, I feel like Murphy sort of lost her femininity a bit. Not that having tampons are feminine, but it's sort of the kind of joke that a man would write.
Oh, exactly. And it's when we start with jokes like that and we lose them, it seems to be
Like female friends. Like, I
Exactly.
love
It's
that she has
just-
Frank, but like
yeah.
as we get later on into the season, she stops having female friends.
we stop actively addressing the fact that she's female,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily a bad thing because it shouldn't just be about her gender, but it was nice to have those kinds of references, especially like that because the joke was great.
Yeah.
However, what we were referencing, Murphy's not pleased that she needs tampons, but the only thing that pleases her in this moment is that Miles got her an interview with Bobby Powell. He is the latest scandal. He's accused of sleeping with Gwen Lansing, who is running for vice president. And this references, Lauren, a real scandal headline story that was happening at the time.
Yes, so for anyone who is not familiar, so this is based, although switching the gender, on Donna Rice and Gary Hart. Gary Hart was the frontrunner in the presidential election in 1987. Eventually, that went to Michael Dukakis. And Gary Hart was found to be having an affair, although I think they still claim that they wasn't, with Donna Rice. There was a picture of her sitting on his lap. And there's a picture in this that they talk about. It's not as, racy. It's just, I think, them like
But it
looking at each
definitely
other.
references
Totally referencing the picture.
that picture.
Yeah, they said they were just friends. And then I also think the fact that it's a woman running for president, or vice president, excuse me, is also probably based on Geraldine Ferraro, who at the time was the only woman in 1984 who had run for vice president.
Yeah.
So this was a sort of a new thing.
It's a couple things folded in
Yeah.
together.
I read something very briefly, and I don't know necessarily if it's true because I haven't read it in more than one source, that in the original pilot, and if someone out there can correct me, like someone involved in the show, please do, that it was actually a man and a woman like Donna and Gary, and that it was suggested that she reverse it.
I love it. I love that it's reversed.
I love that it's reversed too. And it fits into a lot of the themes of Murphy Brown, that this is a woman who's running for vice
Yeah.
president. And I think it's a really good sort of change. And then also you don't have to worry about the being compared to the exact parallels to it.
Exactly. You can, because the genders are reversed, you have a little bit more room to adjust the details. And also, I hope that it was a suggestion because you can examine a different dynamic.
Yeah, exactly.
So the only caveat is that Miles got her an interview only under the condition that she not ask him the big question of if he's sleeping with Gwen
Which
Lansing.
is what is the point.
That's the point. And so Murphy's like, no, there's no way I'm going to do it if I can't do that. That's the question.
We also didn't mention that we got to meet Murphy's first secretary.
Oh, we did get to meet
Yeah.
Murphy. So, for those of you who are of the younger demographic, think of Murphy's secretaries as Emily Gilmore's maids.
Oh, that's a good example.
Thank you. It's there are many, they are many and varied.
Her name is Sherry French, and she is played by, and I hope I say this name correctly, Mary Codoret, who many people who are familiar with sitcoms in the 80s may know her from Three's a Crowd, which was the spinoff of Three's Company. She was John Ritter's live-in girlfriend, Vicky Bradford. She's also been on Love Boat, ER, Night Court, but she's a familiar face. And she, the thing that really got me was she said that Murphy's last secretary left to sell for Herbalife,
Oh,
which is such a specific 80s reference, I feel.
Yeah.
But it's still around.
It is.
Someone tried to get me into it.
the Great Pyramid of Herbalife.
It's a huge pyramid scheme.
They're coming back. The 90s are back in many ways, and one of
Apparently.
them is Pyramid Scheme.
But continue.
So anyway, yes, Murphy agrees to meet with Bobby later that day because Corky agreed with her that she shouldn't. So immediately Murphy's like, no, I will. And that Jane Pauley competition might steal the story.
The Big J.
The Big J. So then we get to Phil's and we meet Phil.
Phil.
It's the watering hole. It's got a couple jokes that carry on for a while. It's very dark inside, and you always feel like you're going there kind of at happy hour. But when people enter, it's clearly daylight. The light comes in, and everyone shouts, "Close the door." That goes on for a little while. We see little Bobby Powell, who is played by the lovely Tony Goldwyn.
Who some people may know from a little show called Scandal.
Also called Scandal.
Or the movie Ghost.
Oh, Tony Goldwyn. Also, fun fact, the voice of Tarzan. in Disney's Tarzan.
I did not know that.
Once you know that and you watch, you're like, oh my gosh, Fitz, what are you doing? So he's a little baby in this, and he's Tony Goldwyn at his best. He is charming, he's affable, and you can see Murphy wanting to believe him. However, she's a hardened journalist, and she knows that people have pretty faces. He's not what she figured. And big part of that is she asks him the question in this private meeting. And the entire bar does this theatrical just lean in to hear it. And what I love is what Tony Goldwyn does with his responses. The thing that actually gets her is the moment he mentions dignity and integrity and dignity in the public eye.
Well, he says, "Do you think America has the right to know everything?"
And
That's so prevalent today.
good Lord, are we talking about that even more?
That line really got me. I was like, the whole theme of this episode is so relevant today.
It makes me believe him. The second he says that,
Well, Murphy agrees. She's like, no.
because she just got out of that.
Yeah. And is in it and has been in it for most of her adult life, which we will soon find out that she's been famous.
Yep.
And it's no one's business.
And so she agrees to interview him. And the second she does, we see yet another series of bets being passed in the background at Phil's. And is this when we meet our second?
Yes.
Our second
This is
secretary?
when we meet Robert.
Robert.
And I also love is that Murphy is playing with the lighter. Like, these are very specific things that sort of show. Later on when there's a flashback, Murphy takes when she's still drinking, she takes the ice cubes out of the glass, which is like a thing. Like there's just little things that sort of pinpoint to what she's doing. And that's when she first gets a call from Eldon. Of course, we don't know it's Eldon at the time.
No, we don't. We just know that she's trying to get a hold of this house painter who should be done by now and isn't answering any of
He
her
hasn't even
calls.
arrived yet.
Yes. It was supposed to be done while she was gone, right?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is she said 2 weeks ago I left the keys with my neighbor. But she was at Betty Ford.
She must have left the keys when she went to Betty Ford and had arranged for this, 2 weeks ago, period. I left the keys with my neighbor, period.
Well, here's the thing though, and this is sort of a little theory that I would like to throw out now.
I think she snuck out, dug her way out.
No. So I've always wondered, you're in rehab and you decide to paint your kitchen? So I always sort of wondered, there has to be a reason for that. I mean, obviously, yes, in the script you need a reason for the painter to come so you can add Eldon. But I came up with my own sort of backstory or...
Did you write a fan fiction?
I did not write a fan fiction.
Dang it. I was hoping you were going to suddenly pull out a spiral-bound notebook and start reading this to me. Never mind, continue.
It was a cold day.
It was a cold day.
So what if Murphy wrecked her kitchen in a blackout?
Oh, I 100% believe that happened.
And what I sort of love about that is, so redoing the kitchen sort of is also about her redoing her life. It's like a visual metaphor for what's happening in Murphy right now. Is she will, because we'll find out later that she was taken to rehab very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Jim drove her cross country.
I love that Jim did
I know it happened that night. We'll find out that later in the season.
Yeah.
I hope that's not a spoiler for anybody.
Guys, she went to rehab. Shocker.
Sorry, later in the series, not the season. So I kind of made up my own sort of headcanon in my head that that's what happened, because maybe as a writer or just I like to take plot bunnies sometimes and go well, that doesn't make sense. How does this make
plot
sense to me?
bunny?
Isn't that what they say online, plot bunnies?
I'm not cool. I just love that. It makes me think of a little dust bunny of information.
I hope I'm saying it right.
I don't care if you are.
Let us know on the internet if you think that works for you guys. But
And even if you do correct us, we're not going to listen.
Oh no, I'm saying they like the idea. I made it up. I don't think that's actually what Diane English was thinking of. But so that's my little headcanon that's so she needs to get it done because it'll represent sort of the start of her new life.
Yes, it's a fresh start. And spoiler for in a few minutes, it is not the fresh start she was expecting.
Nope.
So Murphy is concerned that she has lost her edge now that she's sober. And I just want to talk a little bit about the second secretary. It's played by Charlie Lang.
Charlie Lang.
I love him. He's my little 6 degrees of Charlie Lang, where he's in some of my favorite things. He is Congressman Skinner from West Wing. He is in an episode of Murder, She Wrote. He's in an episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation. And
he's one of the only people to recur as a
Yes.
secretary.
Charlie, you did it. You're the coolest.
And he has one of my favorite lines that I quote in life. I just realized, I think it's not this episode. I think it's Sign, Seal, Deliver, where he goes, I'm healing.
I love Charlie.
It's just, and there's so many great jokes about him, in general throughout this. I mean, he's in 3 episodes, but still, of like, maybe you should go back to the Olympics. It's less stressful.
Oh, sweet Robert. You are stronger than all of us.
Yes.
So, very quickly, we are at the broadcast, and she's now on her 3rd secretary. And this is played by the lovely Kathleen Freeman,
Oh, Kathleen Freeman.
Mrs. Caldwell, the secretary.
She's been in 8 Jerry Lewis films. She was in The Full Monty on Broadway, which she was Tony nominated for. Unfortunately, she passed away while she was doing it. She's one of those faces that is just in everything.
She is. You know her. Even if you don't know the name, you know who we're talking about.
She's one of my favorite parts of Singing in the Rain.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
She's so talented.
She's the one is teaching her. If anyone has not seen Singing in the Rain.
You got a special sneak peek right here.
So she's sort of the sweet secretary of like, I'm just kind of old and I don't know anything. And Murphy, it just seems like...
Just can't take it.
But also just like feels like she can't fire her because she's a sweet old lady.
Yeah, exactly. But don't worry, guys. She figures it out.
She doesn't know who Gaddafi is, so...
Yeah, some Momar something.
Momar something.
Oh, sweet Mrs. Caldwell. And she's worried she lost her edge. She's getting ready for this interview. And then Bobby comes in with his entourage.
Oh, Bobby.
And she sees the real man there. She sees what's going on. She sees the handling. And she immediately knows that she was played in Phil's. And you see that all on Candice Bergen's face.
But also, Murphy knew. She called him out at the beginning. And then she's sort of like...
And she was like,
Oh,
the
okay.
dignity did a ding-ding on her heart.
But her instinct was correct.
And he is clearly playing it for the fame. So she goes against Miles and she asks him the question.
And then everyone takes bets that they are right.
Yep, everyone was right. They're like, she's going to do it.
Is my memory correct? Does she kind of like lean back a little bit?
Yes,
like,
she does that. Like,
I'm back. I got it. And can we talk about the red outfits? My favorite red outfit.
it's in our logo. We love that red.
Yeah. And I thought it was this episode when I watched it, but it's actually, I think later on, is that it's referred to as her red huntress outfit.
Yes.
'Cause
It's
like,
so good.
it's a hunting outfit. Oh, I just love it. She looks great in it. It's fantastic. And then I also love that she has sort of a great sort of moment with Miles.
Oh, yeah, he's freaking out. He thinks he's going to lose his job.
Yeah, and she's like, I like you, kid. It's going to be okay.
It's fine. And she promises to teach him about Motown.
Yes. And also a reference that this is the one joke I feel like certain people might not get anymore.
The raisins.
The raisin joke, yeah. So there was a commercial for the California Raisins I heard it through the grapevine, in which these like, were they animation or claymation? They were claymation, right?
Claymation.
Okay. It's been a while.
They may have eventually...
Animated
They may have
them?
been at the time when they eventually became animated.
But they were claymation, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I had the toys.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and watch it. Oh my God, you had the toys?
I totally did.
Wow.
I'm sure they're worth like $30,000, except I played with them in the bathtub. You don't need to know that.
No, I don't. Pretty much as Murphy says to Miles, those raisins didn't invent that song. Which, by the way, this just reminded me. So there was a soundtrack that I had before I saw the pilot.
Amazing.
And there is this soundbite is like one of the tracks on the CD so I knew this line before, like years before I saw this episode.
That's so cool.
So it's like it melted into my brain, this line, because it would be one of the tracks, and then all of a sudden Get Ready would start to play. Oh, also, we didn't mention that there is a line, because we're going to get to Eldon in a second, that when she's talking to Eldon on the phone, he asks her if she knows Heather Locklear.
Oh, yeah.
Which is funny because that was who they originally wanted to be Murphy.
Oh, my gosh, I forgot about that.
They were like, can't she maybe be 30 instead of 40? And maybe she can be played by Heather Locklear.
Diane was like, no.
And could she not go to Betty Ford? Could she be like coming home from a spa?
No, that's a different... different...
Yeah, that's like, I don't want a hamburger. Can I have a tuna sandwich? And actually, instead of a bun, can I have rye bread?
And instead of rye bread, I actually mean like a tossed salad.
And yeah, but no tuna in it. I would
No.
And no burger.
Actually, just like some lettuce would be great.
And one piece of rice.
Just one white rice, of course, because we have to be as bland as possible.
So you want a hamburger? Yes, I want a hamburger.
Yes, hamburger, duh. So this wonderful segue from her talking about I'll teach you about Motown. We go home and we get to see Murphy in her element.
I love this townhouse so much.
Oh, okay. First of all, where is this townhouse? It's
In Georgetown.
perfect, of course. And she walks in and she's opening her mail and she flips on the music. And we've got another Aretha Franklin classic written by Carole King.
I love how she looks at it. She turns it on, and then she just kind of turns and looks at it with this like loving look, like, oh,
It's her buddy.
yeah, exactly. Like when you see someone you haven't seen in a long time,
And it's perfect because out of that feeling, we get Natural Woman.
and then Murphy sings.
Oh,
This was the thing that Candice Bergen said about the pilot too. That not only was it well written, but she just couldn't believe how it had so many. I mean, we're both actors. When
Yeah.
you read something, you're like, this is perfect for me. These are things that I do.
Yep.
The movie that Candice Bergen was nominated for an Oscar for, Starting Over, she sings badly in.
yep.
And it is
Oh, God, that
such
scene.
oh my God, this is so funny. The best part of the scene also, I shouldn't say, is the fact that it's in a mirror. If anyone has not seen, we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put
Yes.
the clip in the show notes. Is Candice Bergen is just like singing the hell out of this with like the hand movements, and then in the same shot, because it's in a mirror, which was brilliant, you see Burt Reynolds' face of just like, what is happening?
She's so in it. And it's that same abandon that she dances around singing Natural Woman in this living room scene.
Which we all do.
It's so charming. It's so relatable.
I'm more of a lip syncer though than I think a singer.
Oh,
But I mean,
no.
I'm more of I like to lip sync.
And she doesn't know that Eldon Bernicki, the house painter she's been trying to get a hold of, is there currently painting in her kitchen. And multiple times he walks in, sees it, appreciates it, doesn't say anything, leaves. And then he eventually comes in to join her.
I know, with the microphone as like his paintbrush.
Yes.
Like, how do you not think you're gonna scare the hell out of someone when you do
She's-
that? And she screams like a banshee.
It's amazing. And he has been painting. Unfortunately, it's not what she asked him to, which is an ongoing theme with Eldon. Instead, he turned her kitchen into scenes of the Industrial Revolution, which I'm sure is the clean start she was looking for in this headcanon.
like a cotton gin or something.
Oh.
I forget the line.
It's wonderful.
Now I just keep thinking of this one line that Robert Pastorelli said. It's from like the third season, but running amok in the Pottery Barn. I don't know where they just went into my head. His delivery is just, Diane wrote this part for him. He guest
Yeah.
starred on My Sister Sam, and he's just a guest star, and she just loved him so much, and she pretty much wrote the part for him. I mean, I'm sure he had to go through a lot of hoops, but just his delivery is fantastic. It's, on paper you would think it would not be one of my favorite lines, but when he goes, "You were getting better," at the end,
At the end. It's so delightful.
it's so Jersey. I'm from
It
Jersey.
is.
Oh,
It
I
is.
love it.
We'll talk more about Robert Pastorelli,
Yeah.
but I have a special love of him from obviously this show as a child, and then him in the movie A Simple Wish.
Oh, you've mentioned that. I have not seen A Simple Wish.
It's him and Martin Short and I think Mara Wilson.
Oh, Mara.
Is it? Am I wrong? I think I'm right. It is Mara Wilson. And he's just a sweet single father who's trying to be like a Broadway singer. And so you get to hear him sing.
Oh.
And he's trying to get into a role in, I think, A Tale of Two Cities. But he's so loving, so lovable.
He was such a wonderful actor.
We love him. So yes, we meet Eldon. It is lovely. We laugh. We cry. We feel things.
And then she's brought back to Earth. That's such a great ending, too. Is like, we don't know it yet, of course, but Eldon is going to be the one that's going to ground her.
Yes.
Is,
We don't know that yet.
I think it takes 3 seasons for him to actually watch her on television.
Because he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. What I love about this ending is that it sort of sets up their relationship, Murphy and Eldon. We may not know it yet. And she says something like, 30 million people watched me on television tonight. And he goes, yeah, I won $10 at Lotto. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, you just took me down a peg. It's not all about that. And it really is such a great bookend to this
immediately
episode.
sets up their relationship.
Yeah, but it's also a great bookend to the episode too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like it just, it's such a great pilot.
It's genius. There are very few shows that start this strongly.
Very much so, and that's why I think it became a critical success, and the ratings were pretty good. Mm-hmm. They got better as they went along, but it wasn't like fully square or anything like that. Like this was going to be a hit. I think by the spring of the end of season 1, Candice Bergen as Murphy was on the cover of Newsweek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think for some people don't realize that nowadays we kind of, with the right press team behind you, you haven't even started your show and you're already on the covers of things. It's that people kind of lead early now with these cover stories, but then it was a big deal to already be cover art for a show.
Yeah, and particularly like television shows were not on the cover of Newsweek,
No, it wasn't that.
from what I can remember.
It wasn't that fancy to be a television star then. Now, I mean, we're really getting into an age of, we're getting back into kind of a golden age of television.
Totally.
But then it wasn't the publicity fodder that movies were.
No. Movie stars and movies, as we talked about in the last episode, was just at a completely different level than it is now. So, right, anything that we missed, Jesse, that you'd like to talk about with respect? Are we going to close the door on respect?
I think we'll never close the door on respect, but we'll close the door on respect the episode. Don't be mad. Just let it happen.
Lauren closed the door on respect.
You
I just
guys,
can't talk to her anymore.
You heard it here. Lauren's like, she's done with
I
respect.
have no respect for anyone but myself, and that's really shaky.
You know what? We got to start somewhere. So yeah, that was season 1, episode 1, the pilot, the beginning of Murphy Brown as we know it. And on our next episode, we'll be talking about season 1, episode 2, is Devil with the Blue Dress.
Correct. And we recommend that you go to our Murphy Brown Empowerment playlist and listen to Devil in the Blue Dress, as well as all the other songs from and influenced by Murphy Brown. You can still give us a call on our voicemail and leave us a very brief message about what Murphy Brown means to you. We may include it on the show.
Please do. We want to hear from you. We want to connect with our community.
Yeah, and that's 646-450-6902. Or if you just want to record yourself on your phone and email it to us, you can. We're at murphybrownpod@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media. Where can they find us, Jesse?
Well, you can find us at the Twitter, at the Facebook, at the Instagram, at Murphy Brown Pod. Just Murphy Brown POD, short for podcast.
That is correct.
Sure
Ding,
I
ding,
am.
ding. You win a prize.
Ding, ding. And just to confirm, I believe the next episode title is Devil with the Blue Dress on, and
Oh.
the song is Devil with the Blue Dress.
That is correct. We did not prep well for this, did
Oh
we?
my goodness, we
We were-
better get it right next
We
time.
were so excited.
too excited. We'll have it right for that episode.
Maybe we should both wear blue dresses when we record the next one.
How did you read my mind like that, Lauren?
Because we're synced.
Well, so synced.
We're Murphy Brown synced.
So we will see you then at the next episode of FYI.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Lauren, I don't think you were ready.
I was not ready.